Acknowledging his anxieties, David Rose shares some insights about affect, rituals, and self regulation.
I may not look it, but I'm very anxious right now. In fact, I'm always anxious when I'm talking to an audience. I've been teaching at the Grad School of Education at Harvard for about 30 years, and I have fairly large classes. But you'd think I'd get used to doing it and it would become routine. But actually, I'm still very anxious. Every time before class, I have a very elaborate ritual I go through. I go to the same exact restaurant, order the exact same food. The waitresses all know who I am. They never ask me a thing. Everybody just brings my cheeseburger special because it's what I do before class. And I don't like to be interrupted during it. I don't like to be cheerful. I don't like to even talk to the waitress because I'm very nervous. And it's ritual that I've learned helps me get ready for class, and I'm writing my notes feverishly at the last minute. What's interesting about the whole phenomena of the anxiety is a couple of questions I'd like to just talk about. One is, why am I anxious even after all these years? And secondly, why am I doing this ritualized thing before class? What's that about? So first, why am I anxious? Actually, almost everybody's anxious in front of a large crowd, although like everything else we talk about, there's great individual differences. Some are more anxious than others. I'm at the sort of high anxious end. The reasons that we're anxious vary. Partly, most humans are a little bit anxious when people are staring at them. The other things that are probably part of it are a history, that I've had a history, of course, of having some terrible lectures and terrible things I've done on stage where you cringe and you can't wait to get off the stage, and your nervous system remembers that. And so it remembers the whole scene, and it's not good to be standing there in front of all these people because bad things can happen. One question is, what do you do about your anxieties? One of the least valuable things that people say to other people is, don't be anxious. It's okay, don't worry. That never helps anyone. I've never heard anybody say, oh, thank God, now I don't have to be worried or anxious. So that doesn't help at all. Why? Because your nervous system has learned, and has learned both evolutionarily. People staring at you is indeed frightening, and you've had some histories where you've had bad things happen, so all of those things are part of your nervous system, so it's natural and inevitable that you're going to feel that way. And those parts of your nervous system, as we often talk about, are actually very good at remembering. It's important for you to remember things that have frightened you in the past. You don't want to forget them. So the limbic system is actually a very good memory mechanism, so it really keeps track and says, this is a scary situation. It's always scary for you. Here's another one. Just saying, well, I'm not going to be anxious now is ridiculous, because that part of the nervous system is really holding on to that memory, to the biological and the environmental memories, and very hard to overcome. The thing that, from a neuroscience standpoint, that works is to use what people talk about as prefrontal strategies, executive strategies, to try to change the situation in different ways. And for me, one of the things that works is what works in culture, that we ritualize to manage anxiety. So around births, deaths, marriages, divorces, things like that, people try to ritualize because getting into a ritual is a helpful thing to calm, to self-regulate. Lots of people have rituals. They do fingernail biting, nervous tics, all sorts of things are little rituals and big rituals we do, both cultural rituals and body rituals we do. So me going and getting the same exact meal with no variance is just a ritual. So it's no surprise that children or adults with autism have a lot of rituals, a lot of self-regulation. You may see someone with autism that's an adult that's doing very well with very small ritual to just manage their anxiety. And I have them. I bite my fingernails, and I get cheeseburger special before lecture every time to manage my anxiety. So it's not that I'm saying don't be anxious to myself. I'm saying, what can I do to manage the anxiety right beforehand? So I say, well, I ritualize that time. Now, often not quite that intentional, but that's what I've learned works for me. A second thing I do is prepare my talk in such a way that I have some safe harbors. So there'll be 3 or 4, sometimes 5 things in a lecture that I know if I get there, I'll be safe. It's like I have a slide that I can show, or a video or something, that I know for that minute I'm going to be able to recover. So if I'm very anxious and doing poorly, I'm going to get there. It's a little island, I can see it coming, or maybe just a paragraph I'm going to read, but there'll be an island where I'll know I can get a pause and stand on firm ground for just a second and recover. And if I know I have those stretched out over the lecture, then they give me, again, a management strategy that I can anticipate. There's some places where I can get myself back in control about the anxiety. The overall pattern, though, is that there's great individual differences in anxiety. Some people are going to have fabulous management strategies. Some people, not so anxious, they don't have to work at it so hard. But those executive strategies are the ones that work for me. And I think that the best advice we can give to students in school is not to say, don't be anxious, or not to be mad at them when they're anxious, but to say, I'll bet you're going to be anxious when this is happening, when you're taking this test. Here's a few things that you can do. Why don't we practice them? So you're much better off giving kids strategies, executive strategies, to manage that anxiety than to tell them don't be anxious.